posted it in the chat. And now, thank you, Joanne. We'll see you on Facebook, on the Facebook group. It's a wonderful resource for everybody in the club to share information and knowledge, to get questions answered, and all sorts of Lepidoptera related information. We're so happy that today's May meeting of the Natural History Society of Maryland's LEP Club, we have Fred Paraskevoudakis. I had practiced it too, Fred.
That's right.
And Fred, who is the president of the Maryland Entomological Society right now, and he is also teaches at Baltimore City Community College, and he is also the shell curator for the Natural History Society of Maryland. He is a Renaissance man. We're happy that he's going to share his knowledge about a subject that's not so beautiful, rare and extirpated butterflies in Maryland. But hopefully we can end on a high note and everybody can come back in June and help with the count that's going to be happening at Green Ridge State Park. And we can see how we can protect these wonderful creatures. So Fred, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Bronwyn. Sorry for the delay with the technical stuff, but I'm glad to see we're up and running here. Part of what I want, if I have time at the end, how students can participate and contribute to large-scale, long-term scientific data collection. So I do want to acknowledge my good friend Phil Keene, who's also president of the Maryland Entomological Society, for his kind assistance in this PowerPoint, because I put a lot of effort into this so everybody can enjoy this tonight. A lot of images from my collection and from Bug Guide, as a matter of fact. So we'll talk about the list of extirpated and rare ones in a moment. One thing I do want to just start off by saying there's been many studies that have shown sweeping declines in insect populations around the world, and particularly in Europe and North America. Lots of studies. Some people may remember this cover. National Geographic came out in May of 2020 that showed a wonderful cover story. Well, not so wonderful, but like the words say, you'll miss them when they're gone. And portends a very deep problem that's going on right now in the world. So just want to mention there's a lot of tracking going on for populations. So many species, 2,200 species by the Union of Conservation of Nature's by their tallies so far that they're watching. So the other question is, we know that pesticides and deforestation development is causing some of this. Is climate a factor? And I did some research, some literature search. Science Journal, volume 371. This had a compelling article, fewer butterflies seen by community scientists across the warming and drying landscapes of the American West. I'm not going to get into this too much, but I do want to mention it because they did this huge study. NABA, the North American Butterfly Association, 40 years of records and 72 sites. Professional expertise called the Shapiro Transect. This Professor Shapiro from University of California, San Francisco, did a whole bunch of years of data in the Bay Area to the Sierra Nevada mountains, and then iNaturalist, the volunteer community scientist database, with 25 years of data. So they took all this data. This is what the maps look like. So the Shapiro were these dotted areas from the Bay across to Nevada. NABA had all of this western part, and then look at iNaturalist, huge amounts of data that they could get. And they took this data and they crunched the numbers, and they figured out that there is a 1.6% fewer individuals per year of butterflies. That's sad. If you do the math, 1.6% fewer per year across the board we're talking about. That's a huge number, and all the populations are just declining badly, some worse than others, obviously, right? But we're seeing this downward trend. So what's doing it? Well, they figured out that the warming fall, why is this skipping on? The warming months have seen fewer butterflies over time, whereas summer, not so much, because in the summer there's more activity and you see them more, better probability of detection. It is the fall warming, as you see in the third bullet there. Fall warming induces physiological stress on active and diaposing stages. So the metamorphosis is messed up and reduces host plant vigor or extends activity periods for a natural enemy. So all those sort of things that are influenced by the warming are big problems which were not clearly understood before. And they're just starting to see that there's all this thing going on with plants, especially. It affects phenology, the blooming and growing and budding of the plants. Big problem for insects if that is off. So the more we study, the more we'll learn. And the fall warming temperatures an important factor in insect declines. And we have to know that, of course, this is a multifaceted problem. So there's a lot still to be understood about the interacting of climate change with habitat loss and degradation. But no doubt, substantial declines we're seeing overall portend dire ecological and environmental consequences. So I wanted to start out by showing the butterfly, the Euphodryas phaeton, our beautiful Baltimore checkerspot, and it is the state butterfly, of course, and we don't see them very much anymore. If you go to Garrett County, that's where you'll see it. There's a few locations up there. Supposedly, there are places that it can be found in a few scattered places, like Carroll County has one or two sites, and I think there's a couple more going westward, but it used to be found in almost all the counties in Maryland, all over. And I remember collecting these in the 70s and the 80s, and they've disappeared. So unfortunately, even those places they said there's a few colonies, they may not be there. It's hard to know. Well, the ones we do know are extirpated. Here's a short list, and then we're going to see some images. Okay, Spaeria idalia, the regal fritillary, Pergus centauri, the little grizzled skipper, Autoconcelus, the gold-banded skipper, and Erinus martialis, the mottled dusky wing, all gone. Possibly also this Polonius massasoit subspecies Chermaki. I believe it probably is, but I'm just saying probably right now. So,
Hey, Fred, it's
yes.
Bronwyn. You just want to make sure that everybody knows what extirpated means. I'm sure that they do, but just in case.
Okay, but just in case, that's a good point. Extirpated is extinct in our state, or extinct in a given area is what extirpated means. So here's the little grizzled skipper on the left. We used to find these all the time, regularly, up at Greenridge State Forest, Allegheny County, up in those mountains, anywhere in the Appalachian Mountains, really. But this is our go-to place if we wanted to see this little bug. Don't confuse it with the checkered skipper. It looks similar, which is commonly found around here. But this is a different one, and it is gone. The last time we saw it was in the 90s, I believe. And the one on the right, the Autoconcelus gold-banded skipper, that's been long gone from Maryland. It never was widespread either, not like the Pergus centauri. That one was very scanty to begin with, but it was found. Now it's believed to be extirpated. But sadly, though, the grizzled skipper is one that we would expect that should still be around because the habitat is still there and a good habitat. We're not sure why, but this is what's happened. All right, now the mottled dusky wing, Erinus martialis. Here's one that was found regularly in serpentine barrens, and it was always associated with blackberry. You could find nectaring on the flowers. It's disappeared long back from the maybe before that. And the regal fritillary, that is the showboat of all. that unfortunately is long gone from Maryland since I guess the mid 80s was the last time it was seen. Now, essentially, that big butterfly, this huge fritillary, is a prairie species. As habitat changed around here, those big oak meadows with the violet host plants that it requires began disappearing, and then the butterfly disappeared. So if you go to Nebraska, prairie state, you may find it there. It's still around, but not out here. It used to be on the East Coast, up and down quite a few places in the East. There's one location, Fort Indiantown Gap in Pennsylvania. That's a military base where they do active live rounds, training, military exercises, and they burn the fields and all that. For some reason, this butterfly is still hanging on over there, and you can go see it. There's trips that people actually arrange to go on the base and see it's gone, unfortunately. Now, I might add, what you're seeing in these images, folks, are butterflies that were collected not by me, but before I became very involved in this. These were the Riga fritillaries you see in the press collected in the 60s and maybe 70s by Dr. who butterfly guru. He just passed away last year, unfortunately, at the age of 94 or 95. He had all the records of Maryland butterflies from every county in Maryland. What we do have is his legacy, his notebook, and he established in law. He was a prodigious record keeper, and we're very lucky at that. So the other one we notice probably is gone is this Chermak's mulberry wing. It's a subspecies of Palaenis mastocyte called Chermaki, named for Frank Chermak, another Lepidopterus from long back. And this one was found down in the Eastern Shore, Dorchester County area, in March area. Not anymore. I'm going to show you the nominate race, which looks so similar, and you'll be hard pressed to tell them apart. But this one, I could say, is less yellow markings on the undersides. If you notice in these pictures, there's top and bottom, there's males and females, and I do indicate this in most of the slides that you'll see. But this little guy is fortunately no longer with us. Now, our next group is the severely endangered Ecloia olympia, Carroll, Virginia white, Cecilia iris, and Satyrium edwardsi. Now, I did put here on the right-hand side the associated plants. So very quickly, your marblewing feeds on rock cress, grows in the shale barrens of Greenridge State Forest and in that part of the state. It used to be that you could go up there in the 60s and 70s and find it on a regular basis. Small little thing. Not anymore. It's still there, but not much. Pieris virginiensis, that's all but disappeared. It feeds on toothworts. And crazy thing is that the introduced plant called the mustard, the garlic mustard has usurped this butterfly because the females lay their eggs on the garlic mustard. And what happens is that's toxic to the caterpillars. So this is the problem. The introduced plant now has created the loss of the species. It's possible we can still find them in Garrett County. It's a spring flower. You have to be out there in April and early May when it comes out, and you may see it. Pure white. It looks like a cabbage butterfly. I'll show you in a minute. The frosted elfin, wild indigo or lupine, sensitive plants, grew by roadsides, and when they paved roads that were out in these sandy areas, like in Anne Arundel County, you could find this, but the plants disappeared. So it's unfortunate, but that's what happens. Nessawango Creek, Nanticoke, I think, is the one place where you might still see this one, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's Edwards hair streak, which is found on a regular basis at Soldier's Delight in Baltimore County, Soldier's Delight State Park. You'd always find it there. And it feeds on scrub oak with an association of the Allegheny mound builder ants. Now, this is one of those weirdo lycaenid butterflies, Lycaenidae, the family that it belongs to. And there's members in this family who have associations with ants. And what happens in this case, the Allegheny mound builder ants build their nest right by the tree. And the larvae, once they start the tree, they come down and they get into the ant nest, and they have glands that produce this substance that the ants want. And so the ants milk it basically little by little, and they bring that to the queen. In exchange, the ants feed their larvae to the caterpillar, who then grows and grows on ant larvae. When it's time for pupation, the caterpillar will pupate, and then upon emerging has to hurry and get the heck out of that mound builder ant nest, because now it no longer has the glands to produce the substance. So it has to get a quick escape. But apparently it was successful because we used to find them all the time. There's still some places in other states, I believe, where it might be found. Another location, Gambrill State Park in Fred County. I don't know if there's any there. I kind of doubt it. But anyway, here's what the West Virginia white looks like. Beautiful little white thing. Looks like a cabbage butterfly, but it's not. If you look close, you'll see the markings are missing. Cabbages have some black patches and whatever. They're distinctive. And there's the Olympia marblewing. Underside has this marbled look, therefore the name marblewing. You can see those patterns. Very pretty. And this is maybe an inch long at the most. Some are a lot smaller, 3/4 of an inch. Small little thing. We can still once in a while see them at Blue Ridge. It's a spring flyer too. Edwards hair streak is here on the left. I have to tell you that if you ever try to speciate hair streaks, you have to look at a lot of them before you know what you're talking about, because they are difficult to part. We have common ones, Citerium phallicer, like Edward's eye. And how do you tell these apart? If you look on the underside, the left side of the screen, those dotted patterns, less extensive in Edwards, more extensive in the other species. And so that's not telling you enough, because what you need is to see all the different ones side by side. I'm going to show you a few, but again, this one's gone. By the way, if you look here where my cursor is, I think you can see my cursor waving. This little dots that you see on the forewings tells us that it's a male, and those little dots are endocrinial patches that secrete pheromones. So that's how you know when you have a male. Sometimes you can tell by the color or the shape of the wings, but the endocrinial patches, that's a dead giveaway. Now on this side, we have the frosted elfin. It's a iris, and the undersides have this typical little frosting on the edges, which are distinctive of this particular type of elfin. They've become very rare, and there's only a few locations on private property where they may still be hanging out. I'm not sure even if they're there. So now, endangered that are found in non-tidal freshwater wetlands or wet meadows. So here's our Baltimore checkerspot, because indeed it's a wet meadows, wetland type of thing. The turtle head is the host plant that it grows on or feeds on, and the deer love turtle head. It's like candy for the deer. So these have disappeared. They're very colonial. They only stay in around their area where they always seem to stay right where they were grown, where they were born. I don't know why, but that's a detriment in a way, because they don't spread out and look for new places. Anyway, the most part, the wetlands is where the plants would be. So now we have Lycaena thoe. It's called Hylas nowadays. They change names all the time. I don't know why, who does this, but the bronze copper used to be widespread. Euphes conspicua, the black dash skipper. Euphes bimacula, two-spotted skipper. Beloria saline, the silvered border fritillary, and then here's our mulberry wings, the nominate race that I was discussing before, and another one called Huey. Well, let's see. Here's our bronze copper. This is a beautiful butterfly, and look at the undersides. You have this beautiful white with the red rims. Here's some more undersides over here. Now, if you look close, the ones in the middle are the females. The ones on the left are the males. And you can see the females have a lot of yellow on the inside of their wings. The males more purplish, bronzy looking. It was a time where you could always go down to Dorchester County, around Newbridge, anywhere in the vicinity of the Blackwater Swamp, the Blackwater Refuge, and you'd find them. You would always find them. Not just there, a lot of places that widespread. So now you're lucky to find any. Some of this is attributed to spraying, because a lot of the areas we're finding them were border of farmland. When borders are left, I can't emphasize that enough, the little border area, if are left intact to grow weeds between properties, between the roadsides, what's wrong with leaving a little border? But they don't. Now they spray this herbicide right up to the road. So that is one of the problems with declines. And it's many things. It's not one thing, as I said before. But this, I believe, can be attributed to the loss of this species, at least down there, because they use so much. I just don't understand why they need so much herbicide. But anyway, why can't we leave some borders around the farmland? Euphes conspicua, the black dash, found more or less in the Piedmont, west of the bay. Pretty little thing. You can see the dark black dash gives it, and that's the males that have that. The females without. And to learn skippers is not easy. I have, like I said, I have been in good company. People have, like my friend Phil Keene, I mentioned, has been very instrumental in helping me learn these, because there are so many skippers and they're not easy to tell apart. We have Euphes bimacula, the two-spotted skipper. Again, another sort of Piedmont thing, and up into the mountains. Whoops. Here's the female. Note, there's the two spots. Bimacula, two spots. So that's how it got its name. And the underside is this wonderful color of tan. And this is a prominent white line. This is not the abdomen here. The abdomen's behind there. This is the edge of the wing, this white stripe. That's a very typical character of this species. If you see this white stripe like that, you know you have bimacula. Anyway, the males have these black dashes in them, which, see, that can confuse you with a number of other species, but you have to always look at the bottom and see those white markings like this, and then you'd know what you have. The mulberry wing, again, this is the ones we were saying before. Now, it is the subspecies Chermaki. That one is most likely gone. Here we have the nominate race, which can be found in the Piedmont. It is very scarce. Even though we believe it's still around, hard to see them. And then there's Huey is the other form, which is pretty much defined by certain locations that they've been found in. Hard to tell them apart, really. And sometimes people will tell you, oh, you're splitting hairs. But there's always that in entomology, the lumpers and the splitters. So take your choice. This pretty little thing, Boloria saline, Piedmont and Montaigne. Now, where will you find this anymore? Garrett County. I've seen them up there a few years ago when I was there. This pretty little fritillary is, we have two species. We have Boloria tadai in Maryland, which is common. And then we have this one, which is now becoming very rare. It used to be, again, we'd find it in other counties, in the western counties. It was even found in, I believe Dr. Anderson had records of this from Baltimore County, believe it or not. But that was a long time ago. Unfortunately, that location that he found is developed now, but there used to be plenty of things there. He had incredible records from Baltimore County, and this was one of them. So now let's discuss habitat restricted, which are rare or uncommon because of limited habitat. The bog copper, the silvery blue, the Dion skipper, the dusted skipper, the northern meadowlark, and the rare skipper. So let's look at those pictures. Now here is the bog copper. Little thing, you would not notice this if you stepped into the bog where they are. You might think there's a little fly flew past you or something, unless you specifically know what you're looking for. They're small, one of our smallest butterflies. And you can see that they are actually rather pretty. And where are we going to see this? Is in Cranesville Swamp, all the way at the end of Garrett County, right by the West Virginia border. If you go there and you get into the swamp, you may see them. If you step 2 feet outside of the swamp, you will not see them. And I'm not kidding you. It's that restricted. It's a very odd phenomenon, but once you get away from the swamp, you will not find them. You have to be in there and you will see them. So if something happens to that swamp for some reason, someone decides it's a good idea to drain the swamp. I heard that before. Somebody said that. Drain the swamp. Didn't work though, did it? But if they did, then you might lose this butterfly. The silvery blue, Ligdamus, beautiful thing. Green Ridge State Forest. If you go up there in the summer, you will find it. Not the way you used to find it. There was a time where they were rather plentiful. Now, if you see 1 or 2, you're lucky. So it's in the mountains, in the forest, and that's where they stay. They don't come out much from that area, but you can see here on the left, the bright blue, very pretty sky blue are the males. And then on this side are the females. They have a little more dark gray on the border, and the blue is more toward the interior. And then on the undersides, we have these eye spots. So you can see the ones that are turned upside down always have gray with these black dots. And if you look close, there's some aberrations. This is a strange one, it has these stretched out aberrations like this. And for people like who are very into the butterflies, those sort of things are something to appreciate more. So what causes that is probably something developmental. In any case, we know these are still hanging on, and we hope it stays that way. Now we have Euphes Dion, the Dion skipper. This is from down at Dorchester County, again, a marsh type thing. Restricted habitat in a small areas, and they become really scarce. How do you tell them apart? Well, look at the males with the black dash on the forewings, but that does remind us of another one that we looked at earlier with the black dash, right? But it's different. The undersides are very different. And then the females you can see are bigger, and the markings are distinctively different than the males. So you have to be in the right place or you won't find this at all. And then the rare skipper, Problema bulenta, it was called the rare skipper. That was its common name since way back when. Blackwater Refuge, that was the place to find those, Dorchester County. This is a big skipper. As far as skippers go, it's one of our largest. Atrotonopsis hyena, the dusted skipper. Now, these came from a lot of different places, Baltimore County and Arundel County, many locations around Baltimore, Carroll, Frederick, and they've just become scarce. I'm not sure why. I don't know what to say why. Doesn't look like a whole lot, this drabby little black thing with white dots. Okay, but if you look close, here's a beautiful image, and you can see the dusting, the white dusting on the edge of the wings, why it got its name, the dusted skipper. So even these little things have something pretty about them. Now here's the northern metal mark. I believe Brownon was talking about this earlier. Calephalus borealis. And why is it called a metal mark? If we look close, the silver markings, this is metal, like metallic flecks. There's a number of different species of metal marks. In South America, there's hundreds of different ones of all sizes. In North America, we have maybe a few, maybe a half a dozen species. In our area, we have this one, the northern metal mark. Yeah, come back here. And this image is stunning. I mean, you can see how elaborate the patterns can be. That's a beautiful picture. Even the little fringe along the wing is evident. What's happened here now on this butterfly, we'd go to Greenridge State Forest and you could drive down some of those roads, and everywhere along the bank of the road, there was certain places where the nectar plants would be blooming. They're yellow composites, some sort of like yellow daisy. The name slips my mind at the moment. But you were guaranteed to see the butterfly at the right time of the year. If you went there and found those flowers, they would be there. The other one is fireweed, which you can see in this picture on the left, the orange flowers. Fireweed also grows up in Greenridge State Forest, plenty of that there. Don't see the butterflies so much anymore, though. I don't know what's going on with that one, but they've become almost non-existent. We don't see them, unfortunately. Okay, now this group are uncommon, still around, but uncommon. So we have two skippers, Leonard's and the cobweb skipper. We have three hair streaks, the striped, the coral, and the white M hair streak, and four, I'm sorry, the northern oak hair streak. So let's see. Here's Leonard's. There was a time you could always go in the summer to Soldier's Delight State Park rather. There they were. And they'd always be able to find Leonardus up there. Not just there though, as I said, widespread. This one was found on the east shore, over here in this area, all the way up through many locations in the state. It has become quite scarce. It's a distinctive species. You can see from the patterns in the wings, and when you look at the undersides, this is a very distinct and bold patterning that sets this medium-sized skipper apart from many of the others. The males, more triangulate wings and pointy. The females rounder. You can see here the difference. So these are the females on the left. The males are here on the right. And there's those patches again. So when we looked at the skippers before and we saw those black patches, those are also pheromonal. So we have the same thing going on with the males. Hesperia metia, the cobweb skipper. And you can see why is it called a cobweb. Look at the hind wing. It does look like a spider web. And again, small size skipper, but very distinctive. And the females look a lot different than the males do, but they have this, if you look for this V-shape dotted pattern, that's what the males have too. That lets you know you have the same species there. Again, something that was quite widespread. Now you rarely see it. And here's this hair streaks. Now, again, if you look back at think back to the first one I showed you, the Edwards hair streak. And now we're looking at the striped hair streak. So that's distinguishable by these broad bands that you see. If you've looked at a few hair streaks, you'll know this one because these broad bands really stand out. On the top side, forget about it. They all look the same across the board. These are invariably not much to look at on the top side, really. So I pin a lot of mine upside down so that you can see the patterning. Again, see the males, the androconial patches, they really stand out on the males. On the coral hair streak, Cerium titus, here's a hair streak that does not have tails. Now, for the people who weren't sure about this, look at the hair streaks. If you look where the cursor is floating, there's little hairs. Those are little tails that the hair streak butterflies typically have. And when we look at the coral hair streak, it does not. It's one of those that aren't that way. Again, a widespread creature. I used to remember seeing these all the time, and honestly, they were common enough to say, okay, there's another coral hair streak, big deal. Let me look for something else. But now, again, can't find them. And that's kind of a weird thing. The striped hair streak never was very common, but you could find it. Coral hair streak used to be quite common. If you would look on milkweed, you'd find it, or other flowering plants, dogbane, you would always see this coral hair streak. And notice the females are big rounded wings, males again triangulate in shape on this species. The northern hair streak, Favonius ontario, widespread but never very common. Now, you're lucky if you ever see one. It's still around, but again, it was never common to begin with. So its status now is just rather uncertain, but because it's widespread, there's a good chance that you might see it from time to time. The distinguishing features here is this pattern on the hind wing. It may easily be confused with a gray hair streak, which is common. But what makes it different is that it's a browner color than the gray hair streak. Otherwise, they look awfully similar. This little blue this eye spot and the little blue patch are frequently the discerning features when we try to separate the hair streak butterflies. So you have to learn about those characteristics when you try to learn to separate them and identify them. Okay, over here is the Paraskevoudakis M album, the white M hair streak. And it's called that because if you look here, see the M, very distinguishing on the hind wing underside, you see a white M. And the top side though, there's no mistake, this metallic blue butterfly is beautiful. It's just about the same size as other hair streaks, but the metallic blue is a very distinguishing feature. A common place. We used to see these, again, widespread, widespread. But Point Lookout in southern Maryland, St. Mary's County, back in the days, I say that again and again, 20 years ago, you go to Point Lookout, there was no way you would miss it. Excuse me, folks. Take a drink of water here. Okay. So Point Lookout was the place to find that, and there would be lots of them on boneset. Boneset is a flowering weed. Most of you, well, I don't know how many people know what boneset is, but they bloom late in the summer, and there would be plenty of it around, and you could see these butterflies across the field. The boneset would be peppered with them in places, so many. I have found in Baltimore City, Baltimore County, Frederick, Carroll. Don't see them much anymore. Okay, now we're going to talk about range limited. So these are species whose range may just enter Maryland. Therefore, they're kind of rare or uncommon because of that. But again, there's some of them who are losing ground even. So we know they can be found in other states. So I've written here, the great purple hair streak is found more to the south. King's hair streak, more to the south. The hickory hair streak, north and west of Maryland. The great comma, a northern species. Palamede swallowtail to the south, much more. Pepper and salt skipper to the north. So look at this now. Is this a stunner? This is our most beautiful hair streak in the state of Maryland. The great purple hair streak, Atletus halesus, feeds on mistletoe. Plenty of mistletoe. If you go down to Dorchester County and down there on the eastern shore, look up on the hardwood trees, you'll see a mat of plants, like a big ball of plants growing up in the tree. That's the mistletoe, parasitic on hardwoods, and plenty of it. The butterflies are still around, but not in the numbers they used to be. We would find these regularly and plenty of them. And so now you might see a few here and there if you're at the right place in time. How do we know them? Here are the females on the left. See, powder blue, beautiful powder blue with a dark border. The males, almost completely metallic blue with a little black edge. And again, the androconial patches, look how they stand out. They stand out like a sore thumb. You can see them from a mile away. So the undersides are almost black with these blue patches, very pretty. And they have long, beautiful tails. So the key thing here, if you ever collected any, is to try to keep the tails intact, which is the hard thing to do because they're so delicate. Again, these are things that have been collected a long time ago for the most part. All of what you're seeing that are in these unit trays are things from a while back. Anyway, I hope that this species will still stay on in Maryland. If you are in the Great Dismal Swamp, good place to find them. There are a lot of them there and along other coastal areas going to the south. And they nectar on a lot of things like Joe Pye weed and other roadside nectaring plants. You can find them there. Okay, so King's hair streak. Here's a very scarce thing in Maryland, very, very scarce, only because it's more of a butterfly found to the south and indeed in the coastal areas. The underside is distinctive right here, blue with red on, and the little patch next to it. Top side, not much to look at, similar to other hair streaks on the top. Caryoborium. This blue patch right here. Yeah. Can you hear me?
You're kind of fading out on us a little bit, Fred.
It's the lousy weather up here today, interfering with my connection, but let me know if you don't hear me. So Caryovorium is this blue patch that sticks up past, you know. And in all the years in Maryland, this is 30, 40 years of collecting. That's it. They weren't collected by me, they were collected by Dr. And I've never collected this one. I've never seen it. But they are around me. Again, it's a range issue. The only way is to look on the underside and look at blue patch.
Looks like it looks like Fred was popped off. He'll probably pop back on in a second. Just hold tight here. We'll wait for him. I see Rick is on here. He's going to be talking to us next month, June 16th, on the new butterfly counts that he's organizing in Green Ridge State Forest, which we've heard a lot mentioned tonight, and it is still a hot spot for butterfly diversity in the state because of its diversity in habitat in a small area. So Rick, do you want to say anything real quick while we try to wait for Fred to come back on?
Sure. We have a couple of annual counts here in Maryland, but we haven't done an annual count in Green Ridge, which is a real shame because it is one of the most important butterfly areas in the state, in fact, in the mid-Atlantic. And there are a number of insects there, butterflies in particular, that you really don't find anywhere else. As Fred was talking about Olympia marble, this is probably their last stand. If we still have Appalachian grizzled skipper, that's where it's going to be. We've searched unsuccessfully for that for a couple of years. We were seeing cobweb skipper this year. We'll see Leonard skipper this year, probably. We saw it last year. A number of the silvery blue, that's a good place for them. But in the middle of the summer, the thing we're really looking for is, in fact, the northern metalmark. And no one's really looked at where the northern metalmarks are across all of Green Ridge. We have what we call Metalmark Alley, which is Swain Hollow Road, which is the place that's easy to see. You go and you see them there. And if the woodland sunflower is blooming, you'll see one on every plant. And they're just the delight to see and a wonderful thing to look at. They are single brooded. They fly the first 2 weeks of July. And the count that we've scheduled is on the 10th with the rain date on the 11th to be able to count their max at their max peak. And we're going to try, we have 15 different sectors in Green Ridge, so we're going to try to get a really good understanding of its distribution in Green Ridge, mostly so that the State Forest Commission can actually do some management around these areas. The biggest problem that Fred started to talk about was one of the reasons we're losing many of these Green Ridge butterflies, silvery blue, Appalachian grizzled skipper, Olympia marble. First, because they were sprayed almost out of existence for gypsy moth spraying back in the late 1990s. And then because of fire suppression, all the shale barrens have been allowed to grow up into trees and shrubs. These butterflies require those shale barrens to be open and free and accessible, and to support the rock cress and the other plants that they feed on, both as adults for nectar and as caterpillars. So that's what we're looking for on this count. And we need volunteers. We need sector leaders. We're going to need volunteers. I'm putting together a master list now, and I'll be circulating that for everybody to take a look at, and I'll share it with you on June 16th.
Thanks, Rick. I texted Fred to see if he's coming back on. Philip, do you have any other updates from Fred?
Fred just called me. He said he's trying to kind of reboot himself here. He's up in Carroll County, and they have pretty bad reception, and he often has interruptions to his service. So he's asking people to be patient. He's trying to get it kick-started again. Hopefully he'll be back on in a couple of minutes. In the meantime, I think I'll mute myself because, well, I'm not very diplomatic.
Fred's coming back on now.
Let's hope.
Well, I thought he was. There he is. Let me make him a co-host again. Fred, welcome back.
Bronwyn, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you, and your screen is in the process of starting to share.
All
You
right,
must have
good.
gotten a little storm coming this way. I hear some thunder in the background in northern Baltimore County.
Oh, yeah, and it's blessed here, and that's the problem. Because I rely on a jetpack for the signal, so it's usually pretty reliable, but when it's bad weather, then anything can happen. So are we good?
We're good. Keep going.
All right. So Pelagonia progny, Garrett County. That's where you'll find this on Saturday. See if they have a better chance of seeing this this butterfly. It looks a lot like a comma, but if you look close, the underside is very distinctively gray like this. You have this bar pattern and the little comma shape here. These less comma or gray comma, but is the underside that makes it. The Palamedes swallowtail.
Fred, your audio is really sketchy. Nope, he just popped off again. I think he's having a lot of issues with the bad weather and his connection. Is Phil here still?
You're looking for me?
Yeah, there you are. We might need to have Fred come on and do the last little part of his presentation, maybe on the 16th, right ahead of Rick, if that makes sense. Because I know that he spent a lot of time and effort on putting this together, and it's really, Stephanie's saying there's an extreme thunderstorm in Reisterstown and Carroll County. So this might be a good time to kind of end it for tonight. And I'll talk with Fred about getting the last part on for the next LEP Club meeting, if everybody's okay with that.
Well, I'll give him a call and let him know that maybe we're going to want a bit of an encore from him on, you say the 16th? Okay, I'll call and let him know that. He's had trouble like this before, and sometimes even his basic phone service is hard to get through. Somebody had a question earlier regarding the Atlantes halesus, the great purple hair streak. And I believe Mr. Borchardt told them that it was a multi-brooded species. It probably has as many as 4 or even 5 broods, even here in Maryland. It would come out probably in April initially, but it's probably very, very hard to find them in April. I tend to suspect that they probably spend a lot of their time nectaring up in the trees. But if you're looking for them, if you want a pretty good chance of seeing them, the latter part of June is a good period. Late July and into early August is a good period. The end of August and into the middle of September is a good period. And I have found them on the wing and still in relatively fresh condition as late as the latter part of October on the lower eastern shore. The epicenter for the species here in Maryland has always been considered to be the area in Dorchester County, sort of around the Blackwater Swamp area. But it is found in a number of other counties, mostly on the eastern shore. And there's a few stray records from southern Maryland, Calvert or Charles County. In recent years, its numbers have been much reduced from what it has been historically, but it is still around, and it is a resident species. We're just near the northern portion or the northern extent of its range. So I don't know if that's helpful to people, but one of the most reliable single places to see it has been near what's called Newbridge, which is just below the little township of Salem in Dorchester County. It's even called Newbridge Road, so you can find it on the map. And if you drive down there, there's a big parking area for people to launch boats in the, I guess, what is that, the Chickamaucomico River or whatever. And if you park there and walk either side of the bridge, looking along the, weedy flowers bordering the road, you can usually see at least a few of them just about every year. So just to let folks know. Okay.
All right, thanks, Philip. And everybody, I know Fred is coming back on. I want to thank him for sharing his knowledge and expertise with us this evening. We're going to get everything finished up next time. Remember that we're going to be meeting on the 16th with Rick to learn more about the Green Ridge Forest and the new count that's coming up. But put it on your calendar if you have and are interested for the June 10th, rain date June 11th, because we are looking for volunteers. And then don't forget, Sue Myers is organizing a wonderful field trip to the Ladue Gardens Butterfly House on July 28th. It's going to be a little picnic and behind the scenes tour only for the LEP Club. So let's take advantage of that. Save the date, more information on how to register for that so we can have good numbers for planning will be good. And that's it. Everybody stay safe, stay curious, stay outside, stay looking for those Lepidoptera, and we will see you back here, same time, same place, but on June 16th. Oh, hey, Fred.
You want me to try to finish? I didn't have a lot left. I
Well,
had
I think
about
that
10 minutes, 5 minutes.
I don't know, about half of the participants have already bailed.
Yeah, Fred, we're gonna, if we're available, we'll talk and see if we can get the last part on at a different meeting, if that's okay with you.
Well, yeah, okay, I guess. I wish to, what can I say? You know, it's one of those crappy nights. What can I say?
No, it was, and we loved your presentation, Fred. And when you were on here, I was thanking you for all of everything that you shared with us, which was wonderful. And we want to make sure that we see everything that you've prepared. And we just had so many people interested in here, but they've logged off. So we will get on and get all of your information later on. But thank you, Fred.
Unfortunate. I was just coming down the home stretch too. We were talking about the strays and migrant species. That's where I was. So, and anyway, but if you want to reschedule it or something, let me know. And, I hope we'll get people back in again. We had a good turnout, and I wish it was better. What can I say? I mean, this technology, right?
Yep, Fred, it's not, nobody's holding this against you. It was great information.
No, I know.
We all learned
I'm
everything,
just-
and we're gonna get, that's why I want to make sure that we get it all, and everybody can tune in to see the rest of it. So I'll work with you offline on that. But everybody, thanks for coming.
Okay.
Remember, June 16th is the next meeting. July 28th is our in-person at Ladue. So put it on your calendars, and stay safe, and we'll see you soon, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Okay, thanks.